Seid gegrüßt zu the Stanley Parable, I don't know. Wie das genau ausgesprochen wird, kannte das Spiel bis vor kurzem noch gar nicht. Ist auch nur ein sehr kurzes Spiel, weil ich einfach mal hier mal anzeigen möchte. Ich mache kurz den Lautstärke lauter. So, und dann beginnen wir einfach mal. Mal gucken, was passiert. Ach ja, der Loading Screen ist einfach immer. Ja, ja. Es ist eigentlich ein sehr einfaches, simples Spiel. Dauert auch nicht lange. Ist halt ziemlich kurz, man muss nichts Großartiges machen. Muss einfach noch, geht einfach nur um die Message am Ende. So, oder Message, die das Spiel übertragen soll, etc. Das ist eigentlich diese sagekräftige. Das Spiel an sich ist nicht so interessant. Ich weiß nicht, warum das Laden so lange dauert. Ich weiß nicht, was beim letzten Mal auch schon lange gedauert hat. Na los. Na los. Alter, will er mich verarschen? Das ist ein ganz simples Spiel. Das ist, keine Ahnung, übertrieben klein, übertrieben kurz. Dann muss er so lange laden, oder was? Dann geht doch.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ja, ich vergessen zu sagen, die Folge kommt statt Shards of War heute. Einfach so. Ja, gerade konnte man halt sehen, was die Aufgabe von Stanley ist. Ich bin hier Stanley, habe keine Beine oder so. Warum auch, braucht man ja nicht. Und dann los.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay, gehen wir mal zum Konferenzsaal. Ja, nur hier, wie viele Nummern es gibt. Ne. Sagen.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oh, warum nicht? Ja, mal die linke Tür. Alter.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Lauf mal zum Boss hoch, ist ja gar kein Problem. Das Spiel hier ist, da warte ich immer so dermaßen
Coming to a
gespannt.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
So auf Jumpscares, das ist übertrieben nice in diesem Game hier. Werden so viele perfekte Momente dafür. Wie jede Tür hinter mir schließt.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ja, was für ein Zufall, dass ich ausgerechnet die richtige Kombination hatte. Das ist echt krass. So, das habe ich einfach im Gefühl. Das ist einfach so. Gedankenblitz, wie man es auch nennen mag. Na, gucken, wie lange er jetzt zum Laden braucht. Na los, los, los.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Warum nicht? Fernkontrolle ist immer gut.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Ich springe nicht. Gerne ein bisschen mehr springen. Ah, Errungenschaft freigeschaltet. Du can, not jump.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed.
Oh.
Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Ja, hier sieht man, dass jeder einzelne Ecke oder jeder einzelne Raum perfekt überwacht wird. Gucken. Wo ist unser hier? Da, warten wir mal kurz. Also wird jeder Mitarbeiter einzeln überwacht, da sieht man unseren Raum. Ich würde gerne mit dem Finger drauf zeigen, aber würde man nicht sehen. Alle werden überwacht, dass sie genau das tun, was sie sollen. Und nichts anderes.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Einfach gar nichts.
The proof, the heart of the operation, controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Da umgezogen. So, dann mal gucken. Auf oder an? Oh. On war's ja schon. Ne? Hallo. Hallo.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Okay, ja, das war jetzt praktisch schon so gesehen das Ende. Wir haben jetzt alles das gemacht, was uns die Stimme gesagt hat. Und am Ende waren wir glücklich. So, und jetzt machen wir halt alles genau andersrum. Wir machen jetzt genau das, was die Stimme halt nicht sagt. Also wir fangen wieder praktisch im Büro an, laufen wieder los. Dann kommen hier wieder ganz so einmal alles das Gleiche. Und hier ist halt die erste Entscheidung, die die Stimme uns vorgibt. Soll durch die linke Tür gehen. Und wir gehen durch die rechte.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate... But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Linken.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
So. Ich weiß gar nicht genau, wo wir hier sind.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Da rein.
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Ach, also ich glaube, ist das Spiel wirklich extrem nice für irgendwelche Jumpscares, ey. Meine Fresse. Hallo.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something.
Ist mies.
Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Der war mies, der ist richtig mies.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow.
Was passiert, wenn ich eine andere Taste drücke?
That demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Kann keine andere Taste drücken.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Stell mich mal neben meine Frau.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Oh ja, Zeit mit den Kindern zu
He
verbringen.
went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Parable.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Na los, dreh mich mal. Oh, hier.
But there is no
What?
answer. What could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Tja, ich muss leider. Von daher.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Und tot. Okay, nein, das gesehen, das war der erste falsche Weg. Den wir hätte nicht gehen sollen in der Theorie.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken.
Okay. Würde ich sagen. Genau, wir haben jetzt den ersten Fall, wir haben jetzt den ersten falschen Weg gemacht. Wir haben jetzt genau das gemacht, was genau das Gegenteil von dem gemacht, was die Stimme uns gesagt hat.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ja, wir gehen jetzt durch die linke. Gibt glaube ich noch 2 verschiedene Wege. Oder 3 falsche, ich bin mir jetzt nicht sicher. Ich schaue einfach weiter. Kennen wir schon. So, hier ist der nächste. Man kann jetzt hochgehen zum Boss oder runter. Ich gehe jetzt runter, weil es falsch ist. Ganz einfach.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job, All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Und ja, da sind wir gestorben. So das tägliche Knöpfe drücken, etc. Ja, verrückt geworden. Und tot zusammengebrochen. Ja, so ist das. Gibt noch einen falschen Weg, gibt's noch. Dann sind wir fertig. Oh ja. Ich fast auf die falsche Tür gelaufen. Ich laufe jetzt schnell durch, weil... Warum nicht?
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might... Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover no indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? This keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
So, genug beruhigt jetzt.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Was ist die Tür so groß? Ist nicht. Das ist es. Ja, diese interessante finde ich Stimme eigentlich die ganze Zeit darauf eingeht, was wir machen. Das ist aber alles zu schnell machen. Einfach nur durchrushen und die Stimme geht darauf ein. Das finde ich cool. Hast du diesen Keller?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Hier steht Escape.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, The truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Nö, ich sterbe nicht brutal. Ich doch nicht.
Behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Die einzige Tür, die sich nicht automatisch schließt.
Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Lade der jetzt. Jumpscare, Jumpscare.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Okay.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Hier sieht man jetzt unser Büro, wenn wir hier langlaufen. Und dann hier langlaufen und hier dann halt die Entscheidung haben zwischen rechts und links. Ab hier ist dann alles anders. Oder so. Kann man Solitär spielen. Interessant. Was Office. Gibt es da 3 verschiedene Möglichkeiten von? Kann man auch in diesem landen oder in diesem? Weiß ich nicht. Wäre vielleicht interessant. Okay. Underground. Ja, hier sieht man dann so bestimmte Sachen aus dem Spiel selber. Als kleines Museum. Ja, alles angucken. Da ist auch irgendwo Knöpfe, die man drücken kann. Das hier? Ach, das ist der Keller. Die ganze Zeit im Kreis, wo man die ganze Zeit im Kreis läuft. Was? Keine Ahnung. Ach so, doch. Rechts und links. Wo du durch die eine Tür gehst, dann durch die Tür gehst. Und dann noch die Chance hat zurückzukommen und man es aber nicht tut. Weil ich es nicht getan habe, ganz einfach. Wow. Nichts passiert. So, das war jetzt eigentlich das Spiel. Mehr gibt es dann so gesehen nicht zu zeigen hier. Es waren jetzt drei falsche Wege. Und einen richtigen Weg. Es war jetzt ganz einfach so. Das Spiel ist ja wirklich jetzt extrem kurz und nicht wirklich ja, geht ja gar nichts. Aber im Endeffekt ist es in der Hinsicht halt aussagekräftig, dass man halt sagt, ja, hör auf deine innere Stimme und sowas, weil das die ganze Zeit hat die Stimme, das ist ja die innere Stimme, hat die ganze Zeit gesagt, was wir tun sollen, damit es uns besser geht, damit wir frei sind, damit wir ein besseres Leben haben, etc. Wir haben aber diese Stimme ignoriert und sind immer gestorben, anscheinend. Oder sonst irgendwo gelandet, aber ich tendiere eher zu, wir sind immer gestorben, wenn wir nicht auf unsere innere Stimme gehört haben. Weil wir immer gedacht haben, das, was uns gesagt wird von anderen, wäre richtig. Das, was wir tun sollen, wäre richtig. Wir gedacht haben, unsere innere Stimme ist nicht wichtig. Und ich finde, dieses Spiel ist halt dafür da, zu zeigen, wie scheiße es den meisten oder vielen ja eigentlich so im Berufsleben ja geht. Dann einfach nur das tun, was ihnen gesagt wird und nicht das tun, was sie machen wollen. Und das ist ja wirklich hier genauso. Was ist das denn hier? Ich konnte irgendwo noch Knöpfe drücken. Ich sehe nicht mehr wo. Was hier? Hallo? Hallo? Keine Ahnung. Ah! Arschloch. Ja, also...
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Ja.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
Nice. Ja, was das Spiel eigentlich damit sagen möchte, ja, auch wenn es in der heutigen Gesellschaft nicht so einfach ist, einfach das zu tun, was man tun möchte und nicht das tun, was andere von dir verlangen oder was du tun sollst, etc. Ist einfach, ja, ist nicht einfach in der heutigen Gesellschaft, aber man kann es schaffen, jeder kann es schaffen. Man muss einfach nur motiviert bleiben, durchhalten und sehr viel Geduld haben. Ja, hier passiert nichts mehr, ist jetzt vorbei, endgültig tot. Ich hatte am Anfang ziemlich lange überlegt, ob ich erst die falschen Wege gehen sollte und dann erst den richtigen Weg. Aber ich wollte erst zeigen, dass wenn man auf die innere Stimme hört und den richtigen Weg geht, dass man dann ja, ich sage jetzt mal in Anführungszeichen, Paradies landet oder halt wieder sich gut fühlt und dann erst die falsche machen wollte. Die wenigsten gucken bis zum Schluss. Eigentlich. Deswegen ist es besser, wenn man direkt am Anfang den richtigen Weg sieht und weiß, wenn man auf das hört, was die innere Stimme einem sagt, dann geht es einem gut. Wir müssen jetzt hier das Spiel in der Theorie neu starten. Aber ich werde das jetzt hier beenden, weil es ist jetzt vorbei. Und ja, das war's dann mit Stanley Parable. Und ja, ich hoffe, also mir persönlich gefällt das Spiel, auch wenn es nur wirklich 4 Minuten, also es geht das waren jetzt 40 Minuten an für alles hin und her, aber wenn du einmal durchspaßt, geht das hier in 4 Minuten. lohnt zu kaufen, tut sich das meiner Meinung nach nicht, weil ich weiß gar nicht, wie viel das kostet. Ich mal kurz nachgucken. Hoch. Stanley. Kostet 12 Euro. Jo, mach das. Die kostet 12 Euro. Das lohnt definitiv gar nicht zu kaufen. Ja, daher alles gut, wenn man sich das anguckt, wenn man versucht, das zu verstehen und so weiter. Und ich denke, 40 Minuten sind auf jeden Fall auch viel genug. Ja, Gedanken drüber machen, über alles und sagen, okay, danke, bis zuschauen und man sieht dich morgen wieder. Und sage damit, ciao, bis zum nächsten Mal.